Okay.
Mircha, who's the 567 number?
I think D just joined, and Jim Fruit as a guest, he joined our committee meeting. So again, 4:33 now p.m. We email all of you guys the agenda uh, ahead. I will go ahead down the agenda and discuss about each item. If you please mute yourself and then unmute yourself when you have a question or a comment. I mentioned at the last committee meeting that we lost two different line items in fiscal year 2021 from the State Department. There were state allocations. One line item was in amount of 156,977, and the other line item was 43,466. So if you add those two together, it's very close to $200,000 that we didn't see those allocations coming in this fiscal year. Now we did receive a new line item, a little bit over 90,000 for crisis infrastructure funds. It's something the program committee will discuss. However, the new line item cannot be used for what we were hoping to use these old funds for, if that makes sense, okay? So it wasn't an apple-to-apple exchange. We looked at the agencies that we allocate this funding last week with Robin, and based on the utilization, we realized that while we lost 200,000, how much we really need is around $90,000 for these agencies to continue the services as we plan and as we ask them in a contract. Oriana House is in need of $50,000. Again, these were funds that were already allocated to them in a contract. It's just that because this line item is not coming to the board anymore, we won't be able to pay those funds to them. So Oriana House is in need of $50,000. Again, was already approved. Wyandotte County, let me back off. Oriana House, the main projects is the expansion of outpatient in Sandusky County, Fremont, as well as Woodville, is how these funds were earmarked in their contract. Wyandotte County FCFC to continue the expansion and growth of the youth mentoring program. And Violence Counseling Recovery Services for clinical outpatient services, $10,093.68. And I'll tell you exactly how I came up to that amount. Also, the last committee meeting, we discussed that we as a board gonna look to see if we can make up some of these loss out of local levy funds. And for Oriana House and Wyandotte County FCFC, a total of $80,000. It should come out of levy reserve funds. It is the only option we have if we want to award them to be able to deliver the services we ask them in a contract. For Violence Counseling Recovery Services, and again, I rounded the number up to a penny. I'll go back in a little history, but our board used to pay for Medicaid services up to fiscal year 2012. And we had two different fund accounts. They were earmarked specific for paying for Medicaid. One for alcohol and drug treatment services, one for mental health services. Is fund account A124 and fund account A128. And I've been in a communication with the state, and we did receive approval in writing that we can use the balance of those funds, which the balance between those two funds combined is $10,093.68 for any clinical service that can take place in fiscal year 2021. So again, the reason I'm saying that if we plan to earmark those $10,000 for violence, then those funds can come out of all Medicaid funds, those two fund accounts, and not out of levy reserves. I also want to mention that initially in a contract, violence we approved out of those two line items that will lost $75,443. So this $10,000 will just offset the loss by $10,000. In reality, they're gonna still have a $65,000 loss in the contract. As I mentioned, we are not very concerned about it yet, just because looking at their utilization, they might not need it. But again, we're going to review this again January or February next year. I'll mention again that the two all Medicaid funds was A124 has a current balance of $1,535.41, and fund account A128 has a current balance of $8,558.27. Those two together come down to $10,093.68 and can be used for any clinical mental health or addiction treatment service. Again, some will be specific to AOD, some will be specific to mental health. Because the money were already approved in a contract, we're not going to really do a contract amendment because we already offered them the money in a contract and we signed the contract. It's just that our pro want a motion to show where the money are coming from, including Oriana House, Wyandotte County FCFC, and Firelands. Again, Oriana House for $50,000, Wyandotte FCFC for $30,000, and those two parts are going to come out of levy reserves, and then Firelands Counseling and Recovery Services.
Mircha, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm really struggling to hear you. For some reason, you're just really muffled.
Okay, let me see what I can do to make it better.
Mircha, you were really clear for me. Here.
Here for me, but it's a delay.
Charity, what about you? Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Were you able to understand me?
Yes.
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 It's okay, Mircha. I turned my volume all the way up, but I think I'm just going to turn captioning on. So you go right ahead, and I'll keep up.
Okay. One other thing I want to mention about this is, again, with Robin and Tanya last week and even today, we look at the finances and funds that came in and out. I had the new addition at the end of the agenda for items. So it's a little complicated because we lost some funding and they give us a new pot that's less, but it's earmarked for a different service. And then in addition to that, we have some special funds in the past that some they gave us new funds and approved carryover. Some they didn't give us new funds but approved old carryover funds. So now we have a big salad that we're trying to figure out how we can best explain it to you. And but before I move to that, I want to see if you guys have any question again. So out of the $200,000 loss, I'm proposing that we approve $90,093.68, and the rest we'll review later in the fiscal year once we have utilization of all these agencies. Any questions or discussion? And I'm going to go back into
So to clarify then, letter B there where it says loss of 43. So you're tabling that to later to see what happens?
That is correct.
Okay.
And a great question, because I made a note about that as well. So that 43,000, some of those funds, I want all of you guys to know that we initially approve or set aside $10,000 to work with Sandusky EMS and Sandusky County APS, which is Adult Protective Services, for a pilot project that we started. But through some other grants that they were able to bring in, they told us that they will be fine without our 10,000, at least for now. So we can table that and keep looking at their utilization. And then we also had set aside 35,000 out of their money for Children's Keeper. That's another pilot project we had with Children's Services in the 3 counties. That is a calendar year contract that expires December 31st. We are actually having a meeting tomorrow at 9 with the Children's Services to see how we're going to continue the contract. So for now, Celinda, yes, I'll say we table it, and if we need it, I'll have to come back at a later time back to you guys. For the Children's Keeper, where we earmarked 35,000, the reason we might not need it, I want you guys to know that the 3 Children's Services are issuing payments to the boards. So they are to us, to the board. So they are matching some of the old funds we approve. So we might not need that money now, but obviously we will in the future if we're gonna plan to continue to contract with them. And if it's a lot of finances today, please feel free to call me or send me an email if you need, I guess, more explanation. All we're trying to do right now, most of these were already approved, actually all of them. We're just trying to clean up and see where we can make up some of the loss from and be in line with what we believe will be needed. I'm gonna move to another item on the agenda. I do want you guys to know, during the board meeting, one thing we're gonna try to do is mix some of this into one motion, so we don't have 20 motions anymore with various roll calls. We're gonna try to maybe have only, if we can, less than 10 every board meeting. So we might mix a few agencies together in one motion. Carryover funds is something is not on the agenda, but I really wanted to discuss it with this group. I did send an email to the state the last few days about more clarification, but I haven't got a response. There are two parts of funds. One, it's called ATP, stands for Addiction Treatment Program. Those funds are specific for the Seneca County Pivot Court and Sandusky County Specialized Docket Court. Clyde, that's the Clyde Court in Sandusky County. So we had these funds last year, and halfway through last year, the state gave us even more funds. So between last year, between Clyde Court and Seneca County PV, they had a total of $210,000 together. Only a very small portion of those funds were able to be utilized for administrative costs for the courts, not for the board, for the courts. I want you to know 0 out of these funds were used for our own administrative costs. We are not allowed to, okay? The rest has to be utilized for services, but there are some pretty strict rules about what the agencies can and cannot do. And if the clients have Medicaid, they have to bill Medicaid. So these funds are funds of last resort. The reason I'm saying that is because once we finish fiscal year 2020, Seneca County still had over $72,000 left unspent, and Sandusky County over $67,000 unspent. So we asked the state to allow those funds to be carried over into the current year, which they approved. But in addition to that, they also gave us another new $30,000. Okay? The $30,000 is something that you guys already approved. So they gave us the new funds before they approved the carryover. So the $30,000 you guys already approved. But these new funds, which they were, all funds, which the carryover was approved, we haven't approved to any agency. We just haven't. And in the discussions with the state, and I had a meeting with Tanya today, I'm not sure if we want to approve this to a specific agency, just because we're afraid, again, they're probably not going to spend it. So I'm trying to talk with the judges to see if they want to identify more than just one behavioral health agency to work with these core clients. So maybe more agencies can tap into these funds in a way that they can be spent. I'm still not very optimistic they will be spent by the end of fiscal year 2021. I will mention the amounts again. Seneca County, carryover amount, $72,637.43. And Sandusky County Clyde Court, $67,005.81. I'm just waiting for the state to see if any of the carryover can be used for court administrative cost. And then I will engage with the judges and see how exactly we're going to plan for it. But there's a possibility that I'm going to ask you guys to approve during the board meeting these funds in a motion as carryover to be, again, used for, particularly for this ATP program. Maybe without mentioning exactly which agency, as we might try to have the funds available for maybe 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 agencies. So that is ATP And I will pause for a second if you guys have any questions. The second pot of money, it's called CTP. Stands for Community Transition Program. And in the past, Robin gave you guys some updates about this, and I'll let her comment as well, because she's the one leading this project. But this project is specific for individuals coming out of prisons back to our communities in our 3 counties. So the funds can be utilized only for those individuals coming from prisons, identified with the mental illness or addictions, back to our community. We have a total of $72,703.42 approved as carryover. So in fiscal year 18, in fiscal year 19, and in fiscal year 2020, we were never able to utilize the entire amount given to us. So that now it's a total of 72,703.42. Again, it's very specific for people coming out of prison. You can use the money only for those individuals. So in the past, we used Oriana House and Fallens to help us in the 3 counties with these individuals. We are trying to get a little bit creative, moving in the future even more how these funds can be utilized. But I want you to know we didn't receive new CTP funds. We didn't receive anything new. This 72 is all money, okay? And out of the 72,000 in May or June, you guys already approved 30,000 out of them through a motion, 20 to go to Oriana House, and 10 to go to Fallens. But we still have a balance of 42,703.42 that we just didn't approve in a motion, okay? So I'll probably try to copy the same suggestion as we are playing for ATP, do a motion for the $42,000 in CTP, maybe without specifying the agency, and again open this for more agencies in our communities, maybe even some housing providers. They can help us with individuals coming out of the prison system. Robin, if you have a few comments about this, as you are the lead project.
I would just add that when these funds first came out, they were for mental health only, and we referred to them as mental health prison reentry. And so that was in 18 and 19, and then they combined it to include the substance abuse individuals coming out of prisons, and it's now called CTP. And like Mircha said, they're very specific on it can only be used for the individuals coming out of prison, so you can't go out and recruit anybody. And you can use them for treatment and recovery supports. Most of the individuals, if not all of the individuals, end up being on Medicaid, so very little of the funds actually get used for treatment.
Now, Robin, I know when ideal is prior to somebody coming out, the State Department is contacting you, is sending you a fax with the files of an individual. Then you look and review the case, and then you recommend either Fallens or Oriana House based on their diagnosis. However, I believe you also mentioned to me that we go to the scheduling process, and I believe you mentioned that the show-up rate at the first appointment is 50%.
At this point, it's 50%. Mm-hmm.
And how many?
So we lose the potential individuals just because they never show up.
Correct. And how many would you say that? How many referrals would you say you get from the state system in 1 year?
I'd have to go back and look. Last year was the first year we really tracked it, but I believe we had right around 20.
Okay, so if 20, so 50% show up rate, you have only 10 clients that, let's say, go for the initial assessment and maybe start treatment. And out of those 10, as Robin said, majority, if not all, are on Medicaid. If we can engage them into more recovery support services, then I think more money can be drawn down. So that's why I mentioned to Robin, maybe we need to have a discussion with the state to see if we can include any housing provider if some of them need housing. Any comments by anybody or questions? I want you guys to know Jimmy Young is with me in the office. So if you guys don't see him, he's here. Well, if you guys don't have any questions, again, if you think of a question after the committee meeting, you can always call me. Second item on agenda, and again, after I went with Tanya through some fiscal stuff, we realized that, so second item on agenda was supplemental to annual appropriation in some of the fund accounts. But we realized the general fund account we don't need to do a Sep App. We have enough funds already there appropriated. But the other three fund accounts, which is A1 to 4, I already talked about it, the old AOD Medicaid funds, A1 to 8, all Medicaid mental health funds, and A130, because of ATP and specialized DACA funds, we need to do a Sep App at those three fund accounts. All appropriations will be for contract services for clients. The money are there, the actually funds are there, the cash are there, we just never appropriated them in these three fund accounts for these specific services. In fund account A1 to 4 would be $1,535.41. A1 to 8, $8,558.27, and A130, $100,000. That's specific to the specialized DACA funds. If anything changes, which I don't think it will, prior to the board meeting, I'll mention. But again, this is the fiscal resolution that usually everybody passes around and signs it. And we'll be able to appropriate the funds so the agencies can get paid. It seems like we're doing more of this almost every board meeting now, but again, it's because we keep, unfortunately, moving funds from one part to another, trying to figure out how to navigate the budget that was given to us this year. All right, the next item, which is, it's fun for you guys to know, interesting. So every September, we accept the amounts and rates for our levies from the three counties. So these are the amounts that the county auditors in the three counties are projecting that we will receive in calendar year 2021. Usually, again, it's a large resolution, 4 or 5 pages resolution. Everybody signs it. I talked with all three county auditors. They want this by September 30th back to their office. So we'll read them all into one motion during the board meeting. But I want to remind everybody, Seneca County, as I put on the agenda, they currently have a 0.7 mil levy. It's a 10-year term. Voters first passed it November 7, 2017. So we have 10 years there, okay? But we can go up to the voters 3 elections prior to us for a renewal at that time. So we'll be eligible probably 2026 in the fall for the first time to go up for that. So Seneca County levy is planning to generate $1,021,919. Sandusky County, it's a 0.65 mil levy. It's a little bit less millage, but it's generating $1,021,289. So almost identical to Seneca. That passed just, as you guys remember, last year, May 7, 2019. And this in Sandusky County is just a 5-year levy. In Wyandotte County, it's a 0.6 mil levy, generates $335,744, was also passed by the voters November 7, 2017, and it's a 10-year levy. So the next levy we have to worry about again will be Sandusky County, and will probably be fall of 2023, I believe. So for that one. So again, the amounts, I put them on agenda. I can repeat if you guys want, but these are just the amounts, really telling County Commission and Budget Commission that we accept their projections. They are higher amounts that we had in the past, I don't think we ever had a projection over $1 million, but this is the first year we do. The county auditors in both Seneca and Sandusky cautioned me as if you guys remember early in the year, we had a discussion about some of the big entities have challenged the valuation of some of their businesses. So there was in Sandusky and Seneca now. So that could affect collection in the future, but there will be a decision by the state if these companies choose to appeal the valuation provided to them by the local county auditors.
How soon will we know about any appeals to that?
Well, they actually both of them appealed, but according to the county auditors, it could even take a few years before a final decision.
So before we get caught, like we did in the past, should we, I don't know, put some in reserve of some kind or something?
Yes, correct, Dean. Yes, we have done that, and we are doing that. So we have the money in the reserves as to match our policy, obviously. Another good thing, we really know every 6 months, Dean, they usually do the distribution to us twice a year of levy funds. Now, worst case scenario will be that we might owe money back, even if the distribution come to us. But because we collect small amounts compared to other public entities, talking with the two county auditors, it's a high probability that they will not ask for money back, but they will give us less in the future. You know, the next draw will just get less minus whatever these companies might win in appeal. Again, it makes a big difference for other public entities like the schools. As you know, Fremont City Schools, if they lose the appeal, I think they gotta pay back close to $3 million. So, you know, if you look at the three counties, in reality, the mental health board levy has a very small levy compared to other public entities. I think the ones they're gonna be hurt the most are definitely the schools and probably the board of DDs. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, what did Jimmy say?
Jimmy said that yes, there will be retroactive payment. Yes, and if you guys recall, some of the things that the schools were really upset is that if these companies win the appeal, an interest might also be charged going back to the day they are claiming. So, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it can happen. I don't even want to project for them, but Dean, back to you in our reserves. I feel we are in a good situation, even if they will win the appeal. We have always budgeted to make sure we have those reserves to be able to continue the services and the contracts that we have approved. Again, I'll probably put all three resolutions into one motion just to save some time during the board meeting. Well, I don't really think I'm asking for any other action during the board meeting. The next items on the agenda are just updates. I do want you guys to know that we have 3 FERA grants, actually 4, but these 3 is where we kind of take the lead. One is the Strategic Prevention Framework. It's a prevention grant. This usually starts September 28 or September 29. We don't have the exact amount for continuation of this grant for next FERA fiscal year, so we can't really propose any motions, but we are planning that grant gonna be renewed, and we'll be able to continue prevention work for another year through that FERA grant. The second grant is SOAR grant. Again, Robin is the project lead on this one. This is focusing more on treatment and recovery supports. We are having a 3-hour conference call with the state a week from today to find out maybe how much funds can we bring to our 3 counties, and as well as some of the new requirements of this grant. And the last grant that also we are planning to renew, it's called HRSA. It's another prevention grant where Nicole is taking the lead in partnership with PIRE. And again, we're planning to renew that one, but we don't have the exact final plan on how we want to earmark the funds. So we have these three different grants that we're probably going to know more information in the next 30 days. We're probably not going to do anything at the September board meeting regarding them, but most definitely at the October board meeting. The fourth one that I mentioned, which again we are not the lead at that one, is GL CAP, a grant through GL CAP through USDA. That pays more for recovery support services, but we are not the lead person onto that, but we are hoping that that's going to also be renewed. Robin, do you want to mention anything about SOAR?
Well, I was just going to say in general, you know, previously when we had a federal grant and you asked me what the time frame on it, it was usually always October 1st through September 30th. And what we're noticing, particularly with these 3 grants here, is they have odd beginning and end dates. One is September 1st through August 31st. One is September 30th through September 29th. So we've kind of, for some reason, shifted away from that traditional October 1st through September 30th. So it's just something we have to be mindful of when we're working on the grants. And just a reminder that because these are federal grants, we're somewhat limited on who we can contract with because of all the requirements that it takes. But to be specific about SOAR, this one we have used to fund some of the expenses at Lotus Recovery House. So we're hoping that we're able to continue paying for things like the utilities and supplies at Lotus House for next year.
And it is very important for what Rabbi said to remember for the November committee meeting when Rabbi said we are very limited on who we can contract with these funds. That is very accurate, as the FAIR requirements are very strict, and most of our, especially small agencies in the 3 counties, even if they do amazing work, they do not qualify to receive these funds. They might qualify in our eyes, but it doesn't mean they meet the FAIR requirements. But please keep this in mind for the November committee meeting as we are working on something on the side. Robin, do you want to give an update regarding Stepping Up?
Sure. So this Friday, September 18th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., we're scheduled to be the local host with the Ohio Stepping Up team and the PEGS Foundation. We're having a local discussion on how we can look at our successes and our challenges of meeting the mental health needs of persons in our local jails and criminal justice system. We have retired Ohio Supreme Court Justice Evelyn Stratton and Tom Craig hosting the meeting along with Mircha. The agenda items include looking at services in our jail, state resources that could enhance our service delivery, how veterans are served in our community, and our local assisted outpatient treatment program. This will be a virtual meeting hosted by our guest presenters, and we have RSVPs at this point from our local judges or their representatives, law enforcement, NAMI, firelands, housing providers, county commissioner, and representatives from our 2 hospitals. We had a planning meeting last week, and we believe we're all set for the local discussions to occur. If there's any board member that wants to participate, just let me know and I can send you the agenda, the link information, and the handouts.
It's I believe a 3-hour meeting, correct?
Correct. I think some of that's going to be, our presenters discussing their agenda items and what they have to offer, but we're really looking forward to that local discussion because we've had some challenging cases here recently, and so we hope to work through some of those issues further.
Any questions or discussions about the stepping up? This first meeting is specific to Seneca County. But both Sandusky and Wyandotte are what we call stepping up counties. So it's a high probability in the next 12 months we're going to have a similar meeting in both Sandusky and Wyandotte County. Robin, do you want to give an update about QRT in Wyandotte County?
Sure. So last week, we received an email from the Wyandotte County Prosecutor's Office requesting our input on a door hanger that they were developing for a QRT program. So QRT means Quick Response Team, and if you recall, we've been working with law enforcement and firelands to implement this program in Seneca County. So we weren't aware that Wyandotte County was ready to move forward with a team, so we were excited to talk to them about developing their program. And they're very much in the planning stage at this point, and they're currently trying to just plan for minimally what they have to do to have a QRT program. And minimally, basically, all they have to have is they have to track the overdoses that are occurring in Wyandotte County and then go out after an overdose and put a door hanger up with resource information on how that individual could reach out for help. So they do want to expand on that and do more than the minimal piece by adding the clinical portion to their program, but they're very much, like I said, in the beginning stage of that. But what they would like to do is partner with the board to make their program look a lot like Seneca County's so they can grow from Seneca County's experience and potentially share the same resources on those calls. They do recognize some of their challenges in expanding the program include how to set that up, because when they look at their data, they're looking at 1 or 2 overdoses per month. And how do you plan for the clinical piece of that when you only have 1 or 2 calls to go out on? So again, really good conversation with Jenna Hamilton and really opened the door to have further discussions. But right now they're not ready to finalize anything with the next steps other than getting the minimal piece in place.
Now, Robin, I know Seneca QRT started approximately a month ago. Would you please provide a little update about that?
Sure. So I think the data that I collected from them was little over a week ago. They had just started the program about a month prior to that, and they had 10 overdoses that they had gone out on. They were challenged with trying to track down those individuals. They will go out on anybody that law enforcement has been involved with on an overdose within Seneca County. So it doesn't really matter what county they're from. If the overdose happened here, they go out on those incidences. And they will go out to the location where the overdose occurred. One of the struggles is they're finding that they can't find the individual at that location when they're going out. They go out on Monday and Thursday mornings. And so they have had some luck with finding family members to those individuals and provide support to family. And then the families are sharing information on where they might be able to track the individual down. Knowing that this has been a challenge in the first month, they're currently and they being firelands and law enforcement, reaching out to Richland County, who has done this for some time now, just to get their guidance on what to do to try and make that contact with those individuals after the overdose.
Any question? Obviously, I believe that if somebody overdoses at McDonald's parking lot, they're not gonna go to McDonald's to look for them. But I believe if it's a residence, they will. And these are all overdoses, as Robbie mentioned, that law enforcement is aware of. I believe through the 911 system, they look at the 911 log and they try to identify them. But it doesn't mean it captures 100% of the overdoses. As you know, somebody can just be drop off at the ER by a family member or a friend. In most of those instances, law enforcement might not be involved.
We do know that we're missing some individuals who maybe go to the emergency room and never end up on the radar for law enforcement. And so at our last meeting, we talked about law enforcement looking at their grants that they received to be able to participate on the team and to see if they could expand the program to include those individuals. So we're waiting to hear back from them on that piece.
I also want to let you guys know that weekly I receive from the state an emergency room report, emergency department report, overdoses in the 3 counties. Again, these are numbers who are recorded only at the emergency rooms. So again, not everybody ends up into an emergency room after an overdose. But I want everybody to know that I would say in the last 3 months, Seneca County is averaging 1 a day. Sandusky County is averaging 0.7.8 a day, and Wyandotte County very little, 0.1. Wyandotte County, I believe, is 1 every 10 days or so, according to the emergency room. But again, the numbers might not match 100% with what the 911 system has recorded. So Seneca County right now, it's our highest, I guess, highest utilized, if you can say that. I do want to mention, and I believe I did mention this, we had some side discussions with the state and our emergency room directors, and sometimes our local people believe that some of these recorded overdoses are actually suicide attempts. They see some who maybe overdose, but they believe it was a suicide attempt. So sometimes it can mingle, and you might not be 100% sure to determine if it's one or the other. Any questions or comments? Before we go to the last item, Robin, do you want to mention anything about Lotus Recovery House certification? I put it on a program committee agenda, but maybe you want to mention something to them as well.
Sure. Well, there's 3 phases, as I think I've mentioned previously. The first one is the policy review. The second one is the phone interview. And then lastly, it's the site visit, which we were able to have earlier this month. The Ohio Recovery Housing Board meets tomorrow to make decisions on who gets certified. And when the site visitors left, they felt pretty confident that there was not going to be any issues with giving us our certification. So I'm anxiously awaiting for them to email me or call me tomorrow after their meeting. I'm sure it won't be right after their meeting, but we're looking forward to hearing that we've been certified.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, Robin and Dean.
Okay, so the next item is MIRCHA's annual evaluation. And I just want to say that tonight we're not actually going over the evaluation itself. We just learned that we can proceed with completing MIRCHA's annual evaluation through our virtual meetings, and we do not have to hold off until we're able to meet face-to-face. We've determined that we have a few options in how we want to proceed. Obviously, we could wait until we're able to have that face-to-face meeting. But if the committee would want to, Dean could actually take the review information that I've compiled and make a decision based on what we have compiled on what MIRCHA's goals would be and provide this decision or recommendation during the board meeting. We would not need to enter into executive session in order for Dean to give a brief summary, and then he could open it up for any discussions. If you remember, the board made the resolution in the spring to not approve any salary increases, so there's no need to discuss a salary change during his review discussion at this time. The other option is that the board could decide to go into executive session during a regular board meeting and discuss the evaluation and as a group make decisions on his goals. We can't do that option tonight or during a committee meeting because we're not allowed to enter into that executive session during a committee meeting. So again, we just placed this on the agenda tonight so we could talk about how the committee would want to proceed with his evaluation.
So Robin, and I talked to you about this, I think the main thing that the reason this should be discussed is because there may be a total of 7 or 8 different goals recommended by various board members.
Correct.
But those goals never got to me. And my evaluation, I think, was complete sometimes in May. So, as Robin mentioned, if maybe 7, 8 goals, maybe they are too many, or maybe Dean can compile some of them. Maybe he can recommend a list of 3, 4, 5 goals during the September board meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
You guys can even, honestly, I mean, I think you guys can even discuss about it now if you have those 7 goals and see what kind of opinion you guys have, maybe merging some or not merging some. And then, as Robbie mentioned, I think this can be discussed at the board meeting. If you guys want, you guys do have could enter into executive session, but if it's just goal discussion, you guys don't have to.
There's no money in that. I think we ought to let Dean put those together.
Dean, honestly, I don't think I could work with you on an email with. I don't think it would be too challenging to cut and paste and put something together if you wanted to.
So Linda, did you want to say something?
So are you asking us now as the administrative committee if we would rather just have Dean propose something, or if we think we should have the executive session during the board meeting?
Can't have one.
Or wait until we can do face-to-face, correct?
You have to be face-to-face.
But I mean, as we've talked about, if we wait for face-to-face, we're looking at potentially sometime after December.
Yeah,
And the year
I mean,
we're at that point.
well, I agree with that part, Robin, because I mean, if you have goals, you don't want to keep putting them off and putting them off. You need to have goals so that you have some structure. So I would say that we need something sooner rather than later. And Dean, I think some of this just falls. I think some of this just falls on Dean as far as we can. I know we've already submitted the written portion, so you have information to go by. But by the same token, and I don't know, Jimmy, if you're still there too, I guess I get the feeling that as an entire board, everybody all the members kind of want to be, I guess, in agreement so that we all know that we're functioning in agreement for MIRCHA's direction and the direction of the board.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Dean.
Okay, somehow I got clicked off. I missed half of the conversation. I apologize. I'd rather compile, I don't know what was said, so I apologize. I think I'm in agreement with what Celinda says. I'd like to get the list together, sit down in an executive session and talk to everybody to narrow down the goals for him, rather than just tell him you got these 8 to try to mate for the year. Is that what you were saying, Celinda?
She said yes.
Yes, I just think that way, I think you have more buy-in from the whole group.
Correct. We don't want to tell Jimmy all of his ideas are dumb and just go on from there.
The only concern I have, Dean, on that is Mircha's evaluation is long overdue. If we wait till January to have the executive session to give his goals, how is he going to meet some of those
Oh, no.
goals? Because half of the year's already gone.
Well, I think we can meet in executive session during this, can't we?
Well, you got to be present. Everybody's got to be present in the same room.
You sure about that?
Yeah, you can't do an executive session over Zoom.
Um,
I'm pretty sure.
Jimmy, it was our recent understanding through the county commissioner's office who received clarification from Ohio Attorney General's office that you could.
It must be awful new because I know we couldn't before. Because it was
Yeah,
always
I do
required
think
to
that-
be present. I'm not saying I'm right, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a more recent change because of COVID.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, even with Zoom, it's not a secured site. That's one of the problems. That's my only concern. It's not a secured site. I'd like to have that clarified, seriously. I mean, because it could open a can of worms. Because Zoom has already been hacked several times. I'm just want to make sure if it says if they say it's illegal, I'm okay with that. But I'm just concerned with the executive session, because any other time we meet, that's open to the public. That's okay, you know. But when we go into executive session, the public's not to enter into it. Nobody should have the opportunity to visit that session unless you're present. That's the way the law used to be. Now, not to say it hasn't changed. It could be, but I haven't seen any change on it myself.
How about if I reach out to the Attorney General's office and try to get something in writing between now and our board meeting?
Yep.
And then if they say that it's okay, we do executive session at that time. If we haven't heard back or they will not put it in writing, we wait for that face-to-face.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I want a clarification just because of what we've been through. I had this on another board that we went through a couple of months ago. It was not acceptable at all. So if it's changed, I'd sure like to know it.
Hey, my 2 cents. This is what I like to say. One, I do know that in the last 30 days there were a few public entities that had executive session through Zoom. County commissioners, different city schools, but Robin is right. We can get something in writing. However, it will just make it a little bit more complicated, I believe. So one thing everybody got to remember, you cannot enter executive session only from a regular board meeting. So we have to be in regular meeting, then enter executive session. So therefore, we got to give everybody either a new phone number to call or a new link, or somehow make sure we are able to kick everybody out. That's the public, let's say. And then we can make no decision in executive session, and we cannot end the meeting into executive session. So then we got to come back in regular session and then do the motion to for the meeting to end. So I'm not saying we can, but it might just be an extra step or two for every board member to follow. Or again, Robin, I think you as the admin for these meetings, you might be able to kick some of the people out and just keep board members present. But then again, I don't know how exactly you tell the public, hey, we're back in regular session. That's the only thing. I think again, most of them do 2 different links or a phone number or something. Now, I just wanna my last comment is, if you guys gonna discuss goals, and Dean will say, hey, these A goals were proposed. Let's have a discussion about them. It's up to you guys if you want to enter into executive session or not. It doesn't, as an individual, as a director, it doesn't bother me if you want to do that during regular business. Obviously, if it's more than that, if it's salary, benefits, back and forth discussion, then obviously everybody will prefer executive session. So I'll leave it up to you guys. I mean, Jimmy has a lot of experience. Dean is the chairperson of the admin committee, so you guys can decide. I just want to let everybody know that regardless what we do, we'll have to make some adjustment.
Yeah, because we have the whole board in executive
Correct.
session,
You'll have the whole board.
not
Yes.
just a group, small group. Could be right. I mean, I'm not saying I know.
I mean, the only other option that I see is Robin and Dean summarize everything. Well, I don't think you can make decisions. No, you shouldn't make decisions via emails. Forget about what I said.
Yeah, for the record.
They should be discussed.
And
Well,
now,
Mircha, I was going to suggest something similar because, typically we have everybody's comments. Robin, you always pull everything together and, hand those to us during our meeting. Could you pull the goals together from everybody's contribution, and then maybe we can rank them, provide those to Dean? I mean, that's at least still everybody gets some input.
I think that can happen, and then Dean, during the board meeting, at the end of the board meeting, could say, hey, these are the A goals. I'm reading them based on, I guess, the most important to the least important, and maybe discuss then if you guys want to keep all A goals or want to cut some off or want to merge some. And then after the board meeting, Dean can give me a list of, hey, these are your final 5 goals from now until your next evaluation.
well, and I'll just add, worst case, if we have to make the decision to wait to do this, like in January, I'm looking at the proposed ones, and I will say Mircha's not going to have any problem unless you come up with completely new ones. Mircha's not going to have any problem meeting these goals, even if you say we're going to go with all of them. He'll meet those goals.
It's
And
so,
he'll
it's so
excel at it
interesting.
because
It's so
they're great.
interesting. The reason I'm saying it's so interesting, Dean and Robin has the document. The document is public record. I see no reason why all of you guys can see it, and why can I see the goals? It's public record, So while it might not be formally approved by you guys, it doesn't mean I can read the document and indirectly start working on that.
I guess that was going to be my question. Why can't we just share them with him at this point and share them with everybody? There's nothing negative on there or anything we need to talk to Mircha behind closed doors about. And I'd be real comfortable talking in front of the public in reference to the goals that we have as a board for him for the rest of the year.
I'm not aware of any reason why we couldn't share. I think it just comes down to historically, we've done it a certain way because of being able to meet face to face.
Right. I guess if my suggestion would be to share them with everybody at this point. If we're not violating any rule or anything. I don't know that he's right that it's a public record at this point because it hasn't been voted on. But it can be a public record right now if we want it to be.
Well, I have a question about that piece. So, Jimmy, if you could weigh in on that, would we want the public to know, I guess, our total list of goals and then what we are placing the most importance on? I mean, are they going to have comments offline about that? Should we have something more concrete before we go public?
I'd say no. I wouldn't want the public to know those. It's not the public to interact on those goals. It's for this committee or this board to determine those. And once we determine those, then they can have what they are. But until we get to that point, I don't don't think they should be public by no means. And Jim Fruit's on there, I know. And
He
could-
just left.
Oh, he did?
He
Oh,
dropped off.
oh, doggone it. Because he could probably explain that too, that I don't want to give the public something that might not happen and they think strongly we should have, and then we didn't. You know, it opens a can of worms. So I'm not really interested in that. I don't have a problem with us sharing with each other because nothing's been voted on. Okay, we're just reviewing these. But like I said, the executive session bugged me a little bit because I don't want to do something that will backfire on us. And it's probably true that they've changed that, but I know about a month ago it wasn't changed because I went through some hell over that. So I just want to make sure we're doing it right. But I think it's only fair to Mircha too that if we got some goals, we can throw them out there and say, here's what we're contending to look at. We're going to get an executive session the first of the year, maybe the very first year. Here's the things we're going to be looking at, Mircha. Keep these on your radar, and we can go in executive session first of the year. I mean, that's all we're doing. There's nothing else that's going to change tomorrow if he's got them or he doesn't have them. But he'll be at least aware that we're reviewing these, and pretty much that's probably what it's going to end up being. But he can see them now. He can work towards them indirectly without being told, right? I mean,
I don't see any issue with that.
I just we can go into executive session. We put it off till the first meeting. We have at least one meeting in person, or if we can do the Zoom thing. I just don't feel comfortable doing after what I've just experienced, but if it is what it is. Because it just, I don't know, I don't think there's any big deal why we have to actually make it official what his goals are today. I don't know what Mircha thinks, but I mean, we throw them out there. So here's 8 goals that was suggested. Keep these on your radar. And then first of the year, we're going to sit down and we're going to finish out the rest of your period of time for your next evaluation and evaluate it at that time, see how well you've done. But that's all without instructing him. He knows what they are. You see anything wrong with that? This COVID screwed us all up, but I mean, it's just an executive session. You know, it's so difficult to do an executive session because the way it reads, and Mircha is absolutely correct. We can't have an executive session without going into a board meeting. The board meeting then has to go to an executive session. And if you do it elsewhere, you've got to come out of the executive session. Or there's only one other way I'm aware of, and that's doing a special meeting for strictly a purpose of personnel to go into an executive session, a special meeting. We get out of that, but the problem is, you know, then the media's got it and everything else. Executive session you cannot come out of the vote for one, and you never really come out of the executive session. We leave executive session, and the board says we are now on executive session at such and such a time. There's really nothing that occurs. You don't pass a thing in executive session. You can't even pass coming out of it. That regular meeting you do. So that's the Robert's rules for you.
So I'll mention something. So I guess to summarize it, the way I understand it is that Dean can share with the entire board, let's say, hey, these are the 8 proposed goals. By the way, now that I shared them with you, I also shared them with Mircha. We'll let him work on diligently on, well, at least we give him a heads up what the 8 are. And next time we are able to meet face to face, we'll go into executive session if we want to streamline some of them, or if you want to sharpen them up a little bit. And that can just be done in regular session, and no motion is required, and we move on to the next item. The way I understand it, it's kind of then what you guys propose. Is that correct?
That's what I'm kind of proposing that. Yeah.
So it's not so much about grading them or rating them as much as here are all 8 that were proposed.
What do you think, Robin?
I think with Mircha's current performance and history of performance, I don't see an issue doing that with him.
on a side note, not trying to deviate, but the plan was at the end of this board meeting to get 30 minutes of Robert's Rules training. At the October board meeting, another 30 minutes of Robert's Rules. So by January, we'll definitely know how we're supposed to be doing it.
And I apologize, I didn't know Zoom was, you're allowed to do executive session on Zoom. And so a month ago, we were not, so
No, we know Robert's Rule pretty
Yeah.
good, but the Zoom thing, it's limiting, yes.
yeah, it's new. And I didn't have not seen it, that's all.
I think it comes down to what you want to do as a board at this point.
Yeah,
Put them out to everybody. To Mircha and all the other board members at this point.
And am I just doing the goals?
Well, we're not going to get with him any sooner to do his evaluation, and we've already got that compiled. So why don't we just put everything out to each one of us?
Okay.
Does anybody disagree with that?
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
So I'm only one, though, I mean,
Well, Celinda, you good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think it through, and I don't see any issues. But I also can't believe there isn't a precedent out there. I mean, we've been in this holding pattern since March. Other people have had to go into executive session somehow. They've had to be able to discuss sensitive information without the public being present. It seems like there has to be something out there. But I agree with you, though, Dean. I mean, I think what we have right now is just basically making this a formality because we have already done the work, and
Right.
it seems like Robin and Mirich, it seems like we're all on board. We just need to formalize it. So, yeah, I think that's fine to summarize and rank them if necessary, or just let Mircha have 12 or 15 goals to accomplish with on top of everything else.
So Linda, just to comment on that, I think, and Robin will know this, but Tifton City School has entered into executive session before, but I think they give the public their Facebook live link or whatever, and when they enter into executive session, they stop that or pause that, so everybody else is keep talking about you can. And I know Seneca County commissioners have done that Zoom, but I think the three of them were face to face. They just didn't allow public. So when they entered into executive session, they just kind of stopped the Zoom or mute it, I guess, and was yes, correct. So doesn't mean we have Facebook page. We could do Facebook Live if we wanted to. So if you guys really want to enter into executive session, you are right. I'm sure we will find a way if you guys want to.
Yeah, I'm
But if there's no need,
fine.
I don't know that there's truly that need at this point.
I don't either person.
I'm concerned because, to be honest, some of the board members.
If there was
are
a
just not
performance
getting
issue, or if Mircha really had no idea of his goals, and there was some question of what you wanted to make his goal, and it was iffy, I would say let's try and work through those hurdles. But everything potentially that's written, he's already working on, and he's going to meet it, whether you tell him in April, if you tell him next month, or if I send it in an email. I don't see any issues with it.
And if we send these out in an email, Robin, we could just formalize and make it formal at the next meeting and just go with it. I agree with you. The 8 goals aren't terrible for him.
I think we're kind of dancing around again. So I thought what we were last saying is I send it out, he has them, he knows what they potentially will be, and then when we're able to do this face-to-face in executive session, we'll do it then.
But why are we, I mean, and I'm not arguing with anybody, why would we drag it out when they're just going to stay the same? And with the list of 8, with him already working on most of it, like you said, All we're doing is dragging this out.
Well, I think part of it is to not have to worry about working through all the hurdles of, the public piece and what to do in executive session and getting it in writing from the Attorney General's office.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that we even need to go into executive session. If you're comfortable with that he's going to go forward with all the goals anyways, and he's already working on many of them, do we even need to go into executive session? And just present to him as is.
What I heard earlier in the discussion is there was a desire to have the board at some point.
That's if we were going to narrow down the list from the way I understood it. Am I right, Celinda?
You muted, Celinda.
If we're going to all of them,
I didn't hear her again.
I said I think it's different if we want to narrow down the list,
Right.
or if we're just going to go with all of them. If we're going to go with all of them, it's already case closed, right?
I'm looking at it that way, correct.
Got it.
So conclusion.
How do you feel, Charity?
I don't know. I agree with Dean on it.
So conclusion is, I can't believe this is the topic we discussed the most. Conclusion is, during the board meeting, Dean can summarize all the goals, the 8 of them or so, and then say, hey, these were the goals for Mircea, and case closed until my next evaluations, which should be May or June of 2021.
Right, and can we send out the email prior to that so everybody's aware of them as well?
Yes, but I do agree that in the email with the goals, you guys should probably send the summary of the compiled evaluation results. Yes. Yes.
Just make a motion then. Make a resolution. To pass it at the board meeting, that's what executive session then.
Correct.
Yeah, but just do a motion. Dean can propose it and read it and say, hey, these are the goals for fiscal year 2021 for the executive director.
It's a case solved.
Yeah. And Robin, you will work with Dean to send the email out this week, gives everybody at least a week to review, which again, everybody had input already. It's just you give them the compiled results.
I apologize for being confusing, Robin.
No, I might have added to it, but I think we got a plan now.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay, well, open discussion about anything. Charity, you have any questions? You are quiet.
Yeah. I'm listening. I'm listening to all of them.
Okay.
No, I don't have any questions.
As long as you don't listen to Jimmy, you'll be okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Robin, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
The stepping up discussion on Friday, what time is that?
It starts at 11 and it's scheduled to go to 2 p.m.
Okay. I'm interested. I just need to switch some things around, but I'll be in touch, okay?
Okay.
I do last thing I just want to give you guys a heads up. I don't know if you guys have time to review or listen to the other committee, but the program committee will talk about crisis infrastructure funds and maybe a plan to expand tele services and mobile response services in the board district. And we're having some meetings. We already had a few meetings with Farlands, and it seems very positive to move to a new service that we currently don't have in our district, as well as to implement mental health peers through NAMI. So again, this will be a very new service where some of our clients, existing clients, could possibly receive an assessment or even a crisis service at their location, which sometimes could be their home. So this is really a big step for SSW, for our board, if we can implement this with a caseworker and a peer to sometimes assist by showing up to the homes of these clients to assist them with any needs, and again, even a crisis service can be conducted. So that's kind of the highlight of the program committee, but I wanted to mention it to you guys. Okay, any other questions? 5:48 p.m. I will stop the recording.